Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Divined from Levia. Yeah, believe it or not, I'm actually in Levia and I've been making these build guides like crazy just to throw people off. And this is actually the first real build guide that I made. This is the most meta Dex Mage that I could possibly think of. This has elementalism in it and I'm going to be talking about it and I'm going to be going over it. I'm just kidding, guys. I'm not Divined from Levia. That guy's a mega tool. It's like he read a fucking playbook on how to be a bully in like a High School Musical like TV show or something. So uh, I'm going to be going over this build guide. If you haven't seen these build guides before, what I do is I talk about how to make the character, some tips on how to play it, and then at the end, I go over a tier list and I explore every aspect of the build. So if you're interested and you want to know what this build looks like, you can skip to the end, see if it's something that you're going to be interested in. But spoiler, this is not going to be the best build out there. It's just something that I'm kind of theory crafting. I think would be very fun to play. I have played a Curite human in the past, got it to level 18 and deleted it, but there's some new buffs that just came in with this patch, so I'm going to talk about it. Servers are down for the weekend and I'm bored, and I did a flash poll and you guys responded pretty quickly, 35 votes. I did a bunch of meme builds that I was planning on doing way down the line, and I might as well get it done now, and you guys voted for human Dex Mage. So that's the whole idea here, guys. This is a human Dex Mage, right? So let's get this out of the way. Let's talk about the race. Now, in order to make this build work, I couldn't go full Curite. Curite is in a bad spot right now. It needs some buffs. Henrik, if you're listening, give some buffs to Curite. They have too many point penalties. They can't really hold up when you've got other things like Tindremic just stomping all over the battlefield. Tindremic also really gives good bonuses to intellect, so this kind of fleshed the build out really, really well, and I think it actually came out better than I anticipated. Making this build, I thought it was going to be total garbage. I was doing it kind of as a meme, but it's not the worst build in the world, at least on paper. So um, age 23 for maximum dexterity. That's kind of the whole idea of the build is it's really fast. You're going for speed. Minimum height, skinny weight, right? The damage bonus, you're not using any melee weapons on this build. This build is meant to leverage the new skills of elementalism. So you don't have a melee skill. You have 154 health. What I'm going to do throughout the course of this video is I'm going to kind of compare that to the Shivra, which is the real Dex Mage. That's what the meta build is right now. Everybody runs Shivra. A Shivra Dex Mage that's lean has around 160 health. So you have a comparable amount of health, even though you're smaller than them, you're skinnier than them, right? You're actually 2 weight classes under lean and you still have a comparable amount of health, which is really nice. That's a human perk that they get that Shivras really don't. Mana, you actually have more mana than a Shivra right now. A underweight Shivra, which is what I've been running on my main, on my Dex Mage, has around 190 mana to 210 with really good trinkets and rings on. This character has 204 base, so if you have good trinkets, you're looking at 220 mana, which is very good for a mana pool at this stage of the game, which is really, really cool. Combat speed. The main thing that people care about here is combat speed. You're at 433. A stout Vila Dex footy runs at around 440. So that's the main hang up on this build. The scariest thing to you is a Dex footy, which is also the most common build in the game. At least it was. It might not be anymore, but at least it was. A Dex footy can consistently stay connected with you. You're not going to be able to get out and get away. So you're going to have to leverage your elementalism, your blocking skill, and your teammates to help peel for you in that situation. And then the big kicker here, the main reason that human is pretty good, is the free armor weight. How much armor you can actually put onto this character. It's actually pretty nuts. So we're going to go ahead and jump into that. Main thing here, armor training, heavy armor training. Like I just talked about, 18 means you can put on Curite, Hornscale Guard Fur, Hornscale Iron Fur, Plate Scale Iron Fur, and then toggle a shield. And generally, when you're making your armor sets, you have a layout here of all the skills that you would need to be a full armor crafter. What I like to do is I like to do like ranger arms and legs and head, and then I'll do a really heavy, like a merc plate or a draconian chest piece. Curite chest piece is also really good for blunt protection, and then you'll have a nice big tower shield on your back. You want to get the heaviest tower shield that you can that goes up to your weight limit. and then you toggle it on and off because there's no equipping animation when you put on a tower shield. So if your shield is on, basically the way you play this character is if your shield is on, you should be utilizing it. You should have your back to the enemy to soak arrows. You should have your back to the enemy because they're hitting you, they're sticky backing you, or you've got it in your hands and you're parrying as you backpedal, right? You can also down block to put the shield center mass on your body and absorb hits and kind of use it as a turret as you backpedal. That's something that really good players will do because most people don't go through the hassle of figuring out like what animations do what with a tower shield. So down blocking puts it center mass and you can backpedal. So that's a pro tip there. And then with your tower shield, you can also you toggle it off and your mana regen goes through the roof because you're a human. And we'll go back a second. And you can't really see it here, but you've got the cleric clade. Your minimum mana regeneration, even in full steel, is 20%. But with the armor that you're wearing, you're looking at 60-70% armor regeneration without your tower shield on, which is a lot. And when you have a big mana pool, you're not going to have the mana issues that a lot of other mages would. And elementalism now has some really affordable, great spells that you can spam, and your action economy is going up. This is one big problem that the game's had for a long time that I've complained about is the action economy, the action per minute, I guess, for a Dex Mage is really low. Like casting 4 T lashes before you're out of mana and then having to play with a dagger, it's doesn't make you feel like a mage. It makes you feel more like a hybrid. And this build has a really good mana pool that you can spam these new abilities and kind of go ham, and it's pretty cool. I like that. I like that a lot, and I think that's a really good change and really good direction that they're going. But your everyday set for armor, you're going to be running the Curate with Hornscale Guard Fur, and then you can run Iron Fur once you get comfortable and build up a little bit of bank because Iron Fur is pretty cheap. It comes from trolls. Everybody farms them all the time. And you just want, like I said, the biggest, beefiest tower shield on your back that you can toggle at any given time. Now you've got all of your elemental spells. I know that I don't have a guide out on this yet. Like I said, the servers are down for the weekend. That's why I'm making this video. Expect an elementalism guide probably by Wednesday of next week. I'll get all the spells or most of the spells unlocked. I'll at least explain how to get everything unlocked so you guys can look forward to that and get ready to check that out. It's got full mage suite. It has just under 50 points, 49 points of mounted magery. The main reason here is you don't want to be totally useless on a horse. You could substitute that for something else. Maybe you hate the mounted combat. I really hate the mounted combat myself, but being able to heal your horse and get out of bad situations, or even kill enemy horses, or at least put some serious damage with your T-lashes, outbursts, and stuff like that, is useful, right? I won't say that it's not useful. It is very useful. And then the other really nice quality of life thing is you get swift riding. So your controlled riding, if your controlled riding is a minimum of 50, you get swift riding so you can travel longer distances before the stamina on your horse just evaporates, which is really nice. It's actually a huge quality of life, and it used to make a very minimal difference. Now it makes a pretty dramatic difference when you're talking about stamina on your horse, right? And you can definitely tell the difference between somebody who has it and somebody who doesn't. Okay, so those are the main skills here. Let's go ahead and get into the tier list, right? God, don't you guys love Midjourney? Like, look at these pictures. This is like Midjourney. This is badass, right? If you don't know what it is, it's AI art. It's fucking cool. Tier list. PvE, PvE, PvE. So this is, you know what? Like I said, this is a little bit of theory crafting. I can't say for positive that this is going to be the best thing ever. Elementalism does look really good. It looks like it has some monster AoE abilities, but using it on foot is a little bit difficult. And you are a glass cannon. PvE is pretty unforgiving. Generally, mobs hit pretty hard. You could do mounted magery type stuff. You could use Awe Surge. You can, this build does have necromancy, so you have the ability to do Awe Surging and stuff like that. If you wanted to, something to explore down the road for you guys is necromancy allows you to easily hop into ritualism. With ritualism, you can get pretty decent undead horses. You could give up 100 points somewhere, 90 points somewhere else. I don't know what you'd give up. Maybe you give up blocking and you just go for a nothing but equipment hits forever. That's something that some people do. You give up blocking, you get ritualism, you can get these really big undead horses. undead creatures, your pets, the undead pets that you have, don't take loyalty damage when you hit them. A lot of people don't realize that because ritualism is still kind of rare. You don't have to feed them and they don't take loyalty. And they start at 1,000 loyalty and it never goes down no matter how hard you hit them and no matter how frequently you hit them. So if you get a decent undead horse, a big one, you can get on your horse and then do Surge and target, you can ride through a pack of satyrs, right through a satyr camp, circle up and start AoEing them and do tons of damage that way. You'll damage your horse. You got to be careful because your horse will get really low and don't let the satyrs connect. Otherwise they'll kill your horse. But you can use Surge on horseback and it's actually really good, right? You can do big AoE pulls like that. So I'll say it's C tier. It takes a while for it to get online. This wouldn't be a character that I'd roll for my first character. This wouldn't be a main character that I would roll until I'd be really comfortable with the game. But once you get the ball rolling, once you understand the character, you understand the mechanics, you can actually do really cool things with it, right? You can do cool things with it, but it's not something you're not going to be able to grind a lot of PvE content very easily and get money that way. So I'll put it in the middle of the road. Fun, I imagine that this build would be extremely fun. And I don't know why that's highlighted. Go back to this. Sorry about that. For fun, I'd expect this to be pretty fun. Somewhere between B and A. It's not going to be the most fun build in the game because you'll get run down by Dex characters and you'll just be like, fuck. If I was just a Vila, right? Every time that you die, it's just like an Ogmir, right? You're playing the slowest build in the game. So every time you die, the first thought is, well, what if I was faster? Right? What if I was faster? It's like the same thing. Even though this character is ironically named the Flash, just because I thought it was cool, it isn't the fastest build in the game, not even anywhere close, because you're not a Vila. So you'll get run down by other Vilas and get cut down, and you're going to be frustrated at that. But when your build is online, when you're utilizing every aspect of your kit, you're getting big AoEs in, you're positioning well because you're really fast, you have all this armor on, so you're able to sustain a little bit more damage and get your buddies to peel for you. It's really fun. Going in and out of that's really fun. And being a mage in with elementalism, it's the age of the mage right now. That's what I've been saying is the age of the mage. Footies are on suicide watch because all these new cool elementalism spells, and it's honestly really cool. And there's some really potent spells out there that I'm really looking forward to getting into and showing you guys and explaining all the dirty details. Dueling, uh, nobody would duel on this build. 1vx. If I was 1vx, this is actually not terrible for 1vx. Um, if you're full elementalist, you have certain spells now like Shock. Shock has a decent range and it bounces to one additional target. So if you're fighting one-on-one, you don't want to do that. You don't want to use Shock, you want to use something else. But if you're fighting 2v1, you're pretty quick. You can still kite. Then you can, if you have your tower shield away because you have range on people, you can raise your fists and cast with your fists out and still maintain that combat speed. So you're not going in and out of melee combat now, sheathing and unsheathing a sword, which is one of the big downsides of a human. You can just keep your fists up and cast in combat mode and then turn, jump away, and you're moving full speed. You're not going in and out of combat speed. So you could hypothetically do really well in a 1vx scenario because you have things like Shock, you have Ignite, you have all these AoE spells that are pretty potent now. They might drain your mana more, but hey, if you can kill two people at the same time, like this might be a really good 1vx build, and I'll test it and get back to you guys. If you guys don't know, a little bit of a sidebar, when Unreal Engine 5 comes out, I'm going to be redoing all of these guides. I'm going to give them a nice layer of polish, make them look really nice, and I'm going to refine it for the meta. This is just in the meantime for fun, like good content. I hope you guys enjoy this type of thing. 1v1 in the actual world. So the difference between dueling and 1v1, 1v1 is fighting to the death in the open world with no rules. I'd say it's also B tier, right? You're a glass cannon. If they connect with you, it's going to be rough. There's builds that counter you. There's builds that you counter. It's above average, but I wouldn't say it's great for that. Skill cap. Skill cap. What skill cap means is S means it's super easy to play and it's very effective, and F tier means that it is hard to play and hard to get value from. I would say that this is probably D tier or even E tier. We'll go ahead and put it down here because you're not the best at being fast. There's Shivras that are faster than you that can still keep distance on any build in the game. So it's easier for them. So you have to deal with that. You need to get your armor training and all your professions up to a level where you're wearing good armor, and that requires game sense and game knowledge. So like learning the character, getting the professions leveled up, learning positioning, right? Your positioning is the most important thing to a mage, right? Being out of position equals death, right? The way I talk about it, and I've talked about it in previous mage videos, is your number one priority is your position. It doesn't matter. I always give the example, if you have a friend right in front of you who is about to die and he's screaming on Discord, heal me, heal me, heal me, heal me, and you are too close, your priority should still be to position yourself appropriately and then get the heal off. Being out of position just hurts your team so, so much. And yeah, yeah, I won't go too into detail on that. Solo play, solo play. Um, you know, I'll put this middle of the road. I can't say for certain because elementalism just came out. I've used a little bit of elementalism to kill bandits and stuff. It is doable. It's way more doable than with ecumenical because the mana cost on these abilities is way lower. It's a huge step in the right direction for mages, and I'm really excited for how this is gonna shape up. Team fights, I would honestly say this is up there. It's not A tier. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and put this in S tier. And the main reason I'm surprised I haven't talked about it yet, but one of the main reasons you would run a human is this little perk down here called Tactician, which is so good, and it's going to shape the meta here in a minute. It reduces all damage done and taken from allies by 50%. Now, what does this build focus on? This is a full elementalist with tons of AoE. You have a decent mana pool and you're going to be spamming abilities. You have war cries that will also reduce damage taken by your allies, make them resistant to mana or mage damage, and you also are resistant to damage incoming as well. So it's the age of the mage, right? You're dealing with a lot of enemy mages now at this point, lots of AoE incoming. You have great defensives against that. Alvarans only get Mind Shield. You have your War Cry and your other buff, your Mind Shield, which is a personal buff. Plus, you have a decent amount of Psych. Plus, you have Tactician. This is just an excellent team fight character, right? This is something that I would love to play in big team fights. I'd play it just behind the front line. I'd pull out my shield, turtle up whenever anybody connects with me, just get my footies to peel for me. And oh man, this would be extremely fun. I'm very much looking forward to playing this and testing it out. Defensively, you know what? This is actually compared to like a Shivra or a Mage, like a Dex Mage, like the traditional kind, is actually pretty good. You have really, really good defense. You're going to have the elementalism air burst type stuff. You'll be able to knock people back. Your speed, even though you're not as fast as a Shivra, will actually be less important now if you're using your wind spells, your air burst or whatever, to push people away from you. So that is something that you can do to kind of mitigate that chink in your defense, is use um, pushbacks, which is super cool, super cool. I'm also tuned in on a couple other really crazy spells that aren't in the game yet that will be potent and help you a lot with that as well. So your defense is actually really good. Defense is actually really good. Offense, I think you're a little bit subpar, just because your spells are all projectile based. So it's going to be really skill based. So that's another reason skill cap is low. It's going to be difficult to land those AoEs, especially as a newer player, and not hurt, like kill your team and stuff like that. That's another reason that Tactician is so good. But offense, it has yet to be determined. This could definitely be bumped up a couple tiers. I could be rating it too low, but I'm nervous that it's going to be hard to land anything beyond short range. Right? If you watched Henrik's live streams where they're doing like mock dueling or whatever with elementalism spells, they're very slow projectiles. They're 1/3 the speed of arrows, so they're really easy to dodge. So you got to get up in their face. You got to get real close, and as a glass cannon, it's going to be difficult. right? It's going to be real difficult. So offense, you have to put yourself into a precarious situation to actually get value from it. So I read it a little bit below average. Economy, like how much money you can make. I do have management as one of your profession skills in this. I always recommend taking management because it reduces auction house fees by 50% if you have negotiation, which is a secondary, and it also allows you to post way more auctions. Because you're an armor crafter, you can make a decent amount of money by just selling entire kits. But the downside is a kit is whatever, head, chest, legs, arms. It's 5 pieces instead of just like a weapon if you were like a weaponsmith. So you have to sell 5 individual items, and those eat up your auction house listings pretty quick. But economy, it's a little bit below average. I'd say, armor smithing is a very, very common profession for people to go because a lot of people like having their custom tailored outfits. They don't like being reliant on the auction house for that type of thing because it's just an essential part of every build. Nobody runs out naked, really. So, unless you're a portal warrior, God, don't get me started. But everybody runs armor, so a lot of people run armor crafting. Therefore, the profit, the margins are lower. I also have scribing in there because going through and getting this elementalism stuff, it's dangerous because of where the guards are located in relation to these tables. I won't go too into detail, but it's dangerous. So being able to get a scroll and immediately scribe it into your book so that you can just get that stuff rolling, it's really nice. It is really nice. So having that is decent. You don't even need unless you're doing the big spells. You only need to pop the scribing book, which is available pretty cheap on the auction house. At least it was. I don't know what it is today because elementalism just came out. Uptime. Um, it's surprisingly online most of the time. You don't have very many mounted skills. You only have 50 points in controlled riding and mounted magery. So on foot, about 100 points is offline. More if you have ritualism, but generally it's pretty good. Like you can get value from your kit in every single fight. Crafting, crafting. I already talked about it a little bit with economy. It's a little bit below that. I'll put it in E tier. Utility, S tier. You are super fast. You have some of the best abilities in the game. You have the meta shaping clade skills in the game like Tactician. Just from a utility perspective, you can basically do it all. You're a utility machine. Overall, we'll talk about that in a minute. PvP, I will put this middle of the road. I'll put it in C tier. Admittedly, part of this video is theory crafting. I've played Curate Humans before. It's fun, but it's very middle of the road. I deleted it for a reason. It didn't feel super good. This could be a cracked out build in the very near future. If we get some balance passes around Curate, maybe instead of losing 9 points per pure Curate trait, you lose 7 or even 6. Like the build gets way better because then you can go full curate, and then your movement speed is actually the same as an uncladed or an unwarcried Alvarin, and then it becomes a huge meta contender, right? But for right now, it's a little bit below average. Overall, I'd put this in B tier. Definitely B tier. It has really cool, unique aspects of it. Just like I said before, though, this isn't the first character that I would play. This is not a beginner-friendly character. This is not something that's going to be a big moneymaker for you. This is something that you could really roll into as an alt or re-roll into on your main once you're really competent in the game and you know what you want to do with your playtime. But yeah, that's basically it. Once again, my name is Divined on Discord. Shoot me a message and just tell me how cool this build is. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.